Today is Tuesday, March 8th, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, a scene from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, a scene from again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your co-host, Mike Shalau from Is Was Brewing. I'm here with my co-host and honorary Fade Master for the day, Chris Quinn. Chris, how you doing?
Good. I'm nailing it. Flawless start.
It's always good when you have to tell yourself that.
Yeah.
I like how you, at the beginning, you're like, I'm going to do something really professional, counted it down, and then...
Forgot what I had to do. Forgot what happens.
But we nailed it. I think it went pretty well.
I think we nailed it. I'm doing well. I also realized that I think there was about 15 minutes or so of blank nothing in the latest show that went up.
It's a professional operation.
So
what happened there?
it was just, I guess, on the timeline of the app that I was using to export the file, I must not have had it pushed all the way to the left. So it just recorded whatever blank space was in front of you.
So it starts with 15 minutes of silence?
Yes, it just starts. But I replaced it. I replaced the... there'd only been like 500 downloads, so not a big deal. Not a big deal.
You could have played it off like this last episode was the hidden track to the previous episode.
Exactly.
Yeah, or it was like that episode of Twin Peaks where there was like no dialogue for the entire episode. You guys just couldn't see what was going on. It was really a visual medium.
Well, the way I found out was a friend of the show and former guest, Jonathan Fritz of Hopewell, sent me
At least someone's listening.
Yes, a link to a podcast with Benny the Bull called Between Two Horns, and it was an hour and a half long podcast. I was like, what? And I pushed it, and it was just, it's like, all right, podcast. And it was like a intro song and then just literally nothing for an hour and a half and then an outro song.
That's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, and I was like, what? Oh, that's pretty cool. And he was like, yeah, I just thought it was funny because your show starts out with 15 minutes of dead air. And I was like, oh. Yeah. He's like, oh, you didn't know? I was like...
It's good to know we're so avant-garde and so pushing the edges of beer podcasting that some people might think that 15 minutes of silence.
I think we're pushing the edges of competency more than anything else, really.
We'll have to put
as we sit in a garage.
You should put a poll out,
barely heated,
to ask what was a better introduction to the show: 15 minutes of dead air or the Zombie Dust Radio Hour, and we'll see. We'll really duke it out.
Do it. Ask for it right now. I think you have the... Yeah.
Email us. Tell us what your favorite alternative intro was for the show: 15 minutes of dead air or the Zombie Dust Radio Hour.
Can I take the first vote? Because I vote dead air.
That's very rude of you.
Some people hate that.
I can't say I disagree.
Some people loved it, But anyway, good to see you, Mike.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah,
good to be seen.
We'll see how this show goes. We're doing an old school Insiders Roundtable style show. Mm-hmm. So we've got a panel of people here that will get going. I'm going to rely on you a little bit more than normal because I am
fading.
I am fade mastering. Fade mastering. Yeah.
Do we want to thank our hosts, WLPN, Lumpin' Radio, and their fearless leaders, Edmar and Jamie Trekker, and whoever's down there at this point. We haven't been down there in a minute.
We're just
disengaged. Whoever they've roped into running this not-for-profit radio station, thanks for doing it.
Yeah, and thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
And thanks for everyone to
the listeners.
Absolutely. Thank you, especially if anyone actually listened to the Stout show. I guess I should say, the last show that went out, there is a show. It is a show. It wasn't a joke. We also got an email. I'll get more into that later. I didn't check the email in a little bit. We got a whole bunch of emails, too. Electronic letters. I'm talking like you at this point.
Yeah, right. Like the kids.
Yeah.
It's like the 33-year-old children.
So we're going to have some letters that we're going to talk about, including one handwritten. We have a backlog of handwritten letters as well. This is written on a little card and stuff like that, so we're going to get to that, too.
Amazing.
But before that, we should probably introduce our guests in order of seniority. Yeah. This is going to be a tough one because order of seniority is how many times you've been on the show. That's the only seniority that we care about. It's really the only seniority that matters. So who has been on, raise your hand, more than 3 times? Not you. Oh, boy.
Oh, not me.
I think you, Keith.
It sounds
you're,
right.
all right.
Just
So
raise your
you're
hand.
the senior. So you're first.
The audience is
Great
seeing
audio
you
format
raise your
podcast.
hand.
It's been a while. It's been a while. But yeah, Mr. Keith Lemcke, what's up, man? It's great seeing you.
Yeah, great being back here. Of course, I've taken time off to enjoy the pandemic as much as humanly possible. I left Siebel Institute as vice president of the school at the beginning of 2017, and
Oh my gosh, it's been that long.
yeah, it's been a while, and put my mind to traveling, studying, and doing some high quality writing. And now, as of the beginning of February, I am back at Siebel Institute in a role as what would be called education consultant, kind of a catch-all phrase for developing educational content and assisting the school in whatever way humanly possible on this, their 150th anniversary of existence.
Wow, interesting.
Is there
Very
a pastry
cool.
stout class yet?
Yeah, you gotta.
He should hit his face. I'm sorry.
That's
take it back.
that was a big yes. Well, I have to say, it's I'm excited to hear what you have to say, as I pretty much always am. And I just want to comment that I think Mike Keith is definitely the pound for pound listener favorite guest of all time. Pound for pound being like appearance per appearance. The
And he's
amount
also
of love
very thin.
versus
rail thin.
Yeah, he's real.
6'9". I think he weighs
I'm
about
worried
120
about him.
pounds.
I'm worried about him.
I think
More
he's
that
walk-
he's just going to topple over.
I think he's walking too much.
Yeah.
Well, there's many of those things are true, but the pound for pound thing is really concerning me now. Because, yeah, I have managed to gain a few pounds, of course, being
look great.
firmly attached to my couch for much of the last 2 years.
I saw you walking like maybe a month ago.
Yeah,
right by Beguile, where we brew out of.
Probably continuously. I'm managing to put in almost 6 miles a day, 365 a year or so. It kind of feels like my feet have been beaten flat with a tire iron many of those days. But yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Better than what I do.
Is there like a standard loop, or are you just freestyling every day?
One of the great things about Chicago is being able to take different routes every day, and just this is such an amazing city to walk through architecturally, but as well just to be able to kind of learn where all the different neighborhoods are, what defines them, what architecture they have going on. And now that I'm walking into Siebel in the morning, most mornings, where it isn't frosty and I don't have a death wish, by the time it's about 7 o'clock in the morning downtown and the sun's rising over the lake, you see the tops of all the buildings being sort of selectively illuminated by the orange sun coming up, and the steam coming out from the tops of the buildings. It's real poetic to see. So yeah, it's
Someone's been doing some high quality writing. It sounds
hey.
like.
well, yeah,
Guy knows his way around a sentence.
that,
over
and of
here.
course,
Yeah.
things are legal in Illinois. So yeah.
Well, to your right, we have a former student, a Siebel student.
A fondly remembered student.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay. Well, at least he's fondly remembered by some people.
I think you forgot what fondly means.
I don't think that word
Remembered.
means what you think it means.
Yeah.
Mike, Dave,
up?
Dave Bleitner. Hey, what's up?
Hey, I'm
nice
Dave.
cover. What's up, man? Welcome back after a long hiatus.
Yeah, thanks. This would be my 3rd time on the show.
Yeah, that's right.
Twice in 1 month, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
After the first time I was called the 2nd worst guest ever
Yeah.
to be on the show. So
Yeah, that's true.
Congratulations.
That's true.
I got nowhere to go to up.
But nowhere to go but up. You were far from the second worst last time, though. So
Excellent, because Keith has all this pressure on him to perform.
Yeah,
I know.
Sound good.
That's why we
and
had
then
him.
you're just
That's why we had you
he's
on.
Here. Yeah,
Had to balance it out.
Keith gets very upset if he's not the best guest, at least in person. He doesn't worry about the Zoom guests.
The man's got it
So we're like,
right.
all
I'll
right,
be like,
we'll
"Ah,
set
just
you
put
up.
him next to Dave. He'll look like an
So
all-star."
I brought
Exactly.
snacks for all your listeners.
That's awesome.
Well, thanks for coming on, Dave. And then last but not least, we have John Rubio zooming in from Austin, Texas, of John of the Beerists. So what's up with you, dude? How you been?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
Good. How was it South by Southwest just happened not that long ago or no?
It's just about to ramp up South by
Okay.
Southwest, so I'm avoiding all of town.
Okay. I don't know
Those
really
of us-
anything about it other than it's a rock fest that became a tech fest, right?
Well,
And a
it was
film
always
fest.
it was always a film, interactive, and music festival. It used to be back when I used to go every year in the '90s. It was an industry event. So there were a bunch of us, like me. I was working in interactive at the time, and we would just go and meet other industry professionals and sit in on symposiums and go to this expo, and it was a lot of networking. And now it's just a lot of douche bros going to see music because it's public now, and it's just like sponsored by Doritos, or go to this stage and see like Lady Gaga has dropped in or whatever.
Nice. It's weird. Sounds like Austin's keeping itself pretty weird.
Yeah,
Richer
it's one
but
of the-
weird.
It's one of the main reasons that we have. I think the latest count was like 190 new people moving to Austin every day. It's not fun. It's not a good situation, especially since our city, we're not set up for that many people.
Right. A lot of
So we
Teslas,
have-
though. A lot of those new people are driving Teslas from when I was out there. A lot of Teslas.
It's almost sacrilege in Texas not be burning up that gas.
I know. But hey, man, it's the Republic of Austin you're talking about. You know?
Yeah,
Counterculture.
Austin's a different animal. They're only racist on the I don't know, the rich side of town.
Interesting. Okay. Bring it, John. Well, thank you for taking some time from away from hiding from South by Southwest to come on. What's new on on the Beerus? What have you guys been doing lately?
We, I think this coming month, are hitting 10 years as a podcast. Yeah, so we're one of the longest running beer podcasts out there. We're
Yeah.
also the first beer podcast to have a woman as a full-time host. Unfortunately, she left the show like 3 years ago because she moved to Las Vegas, and we are trying
And because
to
you're
find...
sexist.
Yeah, because
And all the allegations.
Yeah.
it was a bunch of Me Too stuff.
Yeah.
Now, we've had her back on the show and stuff, and she's like so, like, people want her back on so much.
Yeah.
But we're trying to find another person to fill her spot still, and it made it really hard to do that during COVID because we're not meeting in person yet.
Right.
So yeah, it's a weird time for us because it still feels like a transition period that we were in 2 years ago, and that was just kind of put on
Yeah,
hold.
right.
And now we're approaching our 10th year anniversary, and we're still in this weird spot, you know.
Maybe you
But
should
we're
have
still-
it. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, we're still putting out a show a week, and we taste 4 to 5 beers every episode, and just have fun doing it.
Nice. Well, maybe for the 10th anniversary, you should have it be a big, like reality show where you're selecting who the next co-host is going to be,
nice.
and it culminates when you announce who the new host will be on the 10th anniversary show. Doesn't sound like that much extra work to put together and edit
No.
and do all that.
That one's free. You can take that.
Yeah, you
Because
can
like
have
with
that.
every
It's all the work I'm doing for it, though. Yeah.
with every reality show, everything's just decided in advance. So we've already decided how that's going to shake out.
Perfect.
We've picked the person who's going to be in that chair.
Mm-hmm.
You lost,
Exactly.
Shocking.
but
Yeah.
I've said too much. I said too much.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, well, I can't wait to I'm excited. I'm excited. Well, let's get into the next regular segment that we do on almost only on Roundtable shows, which is beers that you've either had lately that you're excited about or that you are excited to be having in the near future. Anyone can go first. Just kind of shout out. Who wants to go?
You guys have Terrace Boba on draft, so
I knew you were going to say
I was
that.
here yesterday drinking a couple of them. Here again, drinking some right now. So Terrace Boba,
Yeah.
fresh, tasting very fresh.
Yes.
Tonight.
Yeah, I have one here too. I think it's the day the keg came in, I texted you that we had gotten it in. Yeah, it was nice. It was our first draft drop of, what became the Shelton, what was the Shelton portfolio and is now the Lime Ventures portfolio. So they're back in kind of full or mostly full swing. And that's exciting. Some of the English stuff drops next time, so there's a fresh drop. Coniston, yes, that's coming in. Draft and bottle, I believe.
Awesome.
So that's going to
Let me
be
know when that comes in.
Yeah, that'll be
very
cool.
A very distinct memory of you and I at a Shelton Brothers Festival after party, where you get to drink all of the leftover kegs, just draining the Coniston keg.
That sounds like something you and I would do, especially at the Shelton Fest where there's
All
like
these people
whales
you
and
You could
stuff.
go and talk to, and it's just you and I drinking the Bluebird bitter.
Oh, I wish I wasn't that lame, but for those of you out there, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
And you've never had a hazy IPA, just constant Bluebird bitter and milds.
And King.
That's right. It's the only one. And milds.
Yeah, and milds. Yeah, I'm a big fan of those. They're on the come up right now.
Yep.
Cool. Anyone else have a beer that they've had lately or that you're looking forward to? Somebody does, because they wrote on the outline in big bold letters, unless they were just joking. Something about holiday.
It didn't say Christmas beer, did it?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
did.
Well, you kind of intoned what have you drank lately. One of the things that being forced to stay home did was get me back into home brewing. And it was both being home and also picking up the book, The New IPA by Scott Janish, a couple of years ago. And after finishing that, I realized how improperly I was actually brewing with hops and how the beers that I was really liking in the way of Pilsners and more hop-forward beers were smoother in their characteristics. And this book gave me a bunch of ideas about why that was. So I started homebrewing again. And for my Christmas beer this year, I decided I would really take advantage of being a home brewer, because one thing home brewers can do with their Christmas beer is add pure liquor to it. In commercial brewing, you're not allowed to dump pure liquor into your beer and serve it to customers. But as a home brewer, there is no problem doing that. So did an Imperial Saison, which clocked in at about 9% alcohol alone. And then to 20 liters of that, I added a 750 ml bottle of dry Curacao, which is very, very much like Grand Marnier, and added, oddly, a can of your concentrated Minute Maid orange juice. So it was, with the hops being very citrusy, the orange Curacao and the Minute Maid orange juice, it came out this orangey, juicy bomb, topped it off with a little bit of vanilla extract, and that now came in at approximately 11%. I've been milking this for months now on my home draft system. I wouldn't say it's improved. I would say it was always just terrific. And it's led my way into the enjoyment of my alcoholism instead of regretting it.
Ah, good. Well, that's great. I am just the whole time, after you got to a certain point, not the whole time, I was just imagining somebody's first day at Siebel and having you come in and talk about this exciting new beer that you brewed and how you put vanilla extract and concentrated orange juice.
Lesson 1, orange dreamsicle, Grand Marnier, Saison.
Super Saison.
Pastry Saisons.
and just like the look of horror, checking to see if the check had been cashed already.
No, they would all eat that up. They'd be
you're
like,
right.
extract. Let me write that down. Is that going to be on the test?
That's
Yeah.
did
you have-
research
be
that,
on
bro?
the final?
Since this is radio, we have actually the diploma class in at Siebel right now, and roughly 2/3 of the class are from outside the United States, including a large contingent from South America. And today, one of the students was out to Downers Grove and went to Alter on the weekend and brought a whole back of stuff from Alter Brewing. And for the foreign students especially, they get to, Alter does some really fairly straightforward mainstream IPAs and pale ales, and they're quite good. And they also brought back a peanut butter chocolate stout, imperial style stout. And for the Americans, oddly, it was the Americans that kind of went, wow, this is over the top. And you would have thought the guys from Brazil, who were practically all from a large brewery, would have gone, this is curious, but not really that enjoyable. Instead, just went, this is, wow, something so unique. You don't really have a high permeation of peanut butter eaters outside of North America in the first place.
True.
And to say, yeah, this is what peanut butter smells like, but if this is what peanut butter smells like, I want to roll around and get the scent in my body.
That's awesome. Oh, that's great. I'm trying to think. For me, definitely was excited to try the Taras Bulba. Also, I'm not the biggest smoke beer guy, but there is a beer that we have on a smoke beer that I've had a few times, but I've been starting to have it more often. It's become kind of a go-to, and that's the Schlinkerla Helles Märzen, which is, I think, a beer that is just made every so often. I don't think it's on a real schedule from what I heard from Frosty at Be United. And it's essentially the Helles, which just uses repitched yeast from the Märzen. So there's no actual smoked grain used to make it, but it has enough residual smokiness to just have a touch. And then they, every once in a while, I don't know if they need to or want to, they I guess kreuzen the batch, and they kreuzened it with the Märzen. So it's just like has a hint of more malt, a hint more smoke, and it's pretty amazing.
It's a special beer, yeah.
It's a pretty awesome beer. So I've been drinking that and the Schlafly Tasmanian IPA still. Been drinking with all that oniony goodness that I think I might be the only person in America who still likes that hop
The
flavor.
OG, the onion garlic.
Exactly. I'm the OG of IPAs. And then a few hand-pulled milds here and there when I'm at, Olive Garden or something like that.
B-dubs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Just kind of rip
The
through 'em.
Schaumburg Buffalo Wild Wings is
that's the
ripping
best.
through hand casks.
Yeah, it's amazing. I did see there's a tavern that I went to in London called The Cock, and it had 32 hand pulls when I was there, and I was looking it up for unrelated reasons, and they got rid of half of them, which was upsetting to me.
Probably for the best, though. Let's be real. 32 is a lot.
16. I know half
It's
of
like
them.
those bars that have 180 beers on draft.
Well, at least
like,
10 of them, if not half of them, were cider. A lot of them were like scrumpies that just dudes out in the rural areas had made. So it was pretty cool to try all those hand-pulled scrumpies and stuff. Because where are you ever going to try that other than
just at the Cock.
at the Cock? Well, probably not anymore, because now it's just I think they replace them with nitro lines.
Wow, that's a real shame.
Yeah, well, that's the way that cask beer tends to be going, unless you listen to some influencers on
Sales are flat.
Oh, nice.
I liked your wordplay
tepid.
there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You can have that one, Keith, for your writing.
All right, who's next? Who's had a beer lately that
I'm
they've enjoyed?
excited for. I'm a homer, so Dovetail Graditska. Want to have that again? Drink just big Hefeweizen glasses of that.
Yeah,
But just big smoky, low alcohol.
you guys made one
Right in
of
your
those.
face. Yeah,
what are
we're-
called 10, 15 feet or something?
15 feet after the smoking law. We used apple wood. They use traditional oak, which is nice. If you like that, which we found out that not many people did when we tried to sell it. But there's dozens of them.
Yes.
You just
throughout the
you gotta
world.
find
Yeah.
them. Yeah. You guys,
I'm going to go register just Graditskas right now.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
true.
and then
you guys were smoking your own malt for that, weren't you?
yeah, that's we built a double barrel smoker out of some old drums that probably had honey in them or something. Double stacked it, modified it with some screens, so we could smoke any malt with anything, any kind of wood, any kind of spices we want to put in there.
That's awesome.
And we did that when we had a lot
Once.
of. We did a couple of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some time when we started out because we made a bunch of beer, and we
I think
thought
that time like THYN.
time smoked Graditska.
Yeah.
Write that
Yeah,
down.
write that down too.
Yeah, we had some time, and we're like, made a bunch of beer. We're waiting for it to sell, and we waited for a while when you're starting from nothing.
Right.
And I was like, I'm gonna build a double barrel smoker while I have time,
You should call it Smokin' Time.
and then
You should write that down. Smokin'
I'm
Time.
gonna get on the phone with my lawyer. Can we
Exactly.
trademark that right
I got
now?
9 things you got to do.
Exactly. Just
Is
set
it-
it down and leave it up. Okay. Well, that's cool. So you're looking forward to the Dovetail Krasitsky. All right. That leaves you, John. What are you drinking down there?
You know what's really funny is talking about smoked beers. I really like Chip McElroy's attitude over at Live Oak. He says, I'm going to keep making them until people start buying them.
Yes.
They make
You can do
so
that?
many, they make so many smoked beers, and he insists on keeping them in the market. And I hear more and more people enjoying them every time he brews them. So I think last time he had like 5 smoked beers on at the same time.
Wow.
And that isn't like rare at the brewery. They usually have 3, maybe 4 on at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's impressive.
Secret
The thing-
Bomberg.
I've been drinking a little bit here and there. I don't drink a whole lot during the week, but we recently had some beer from Meanwhile Brewing Company. They opened a couple of years ago, I think at the very beginning of the pandemic here in Austin.
Okay.
And Meanwhile is fantastic. I've kind of slept on them. I usually don't go to a new brewery until they've had about a year to work all their problems out. I'm one of those people who like get an impression at first, and then if it's not perfect, I unfortunately kind of put them off.
John, wait a second. Wasn't this one of the places that I said was on my list, and you suggested we go to the other place instead that we didn't? What was the last brewery the second brewery that we went to when I was there?
St. Elmo.
St. Elmo, which is it near Meanwhile, kind of?
Not really.
Oh, never mind. Maybe I'm thinking of a different place.
Yeah, Meanwhile is on the other side of the highway headed toward the airport, but I finally got to try them, and man, their Pilsner is amazing.
Yeah.
They got a gold at GABF in 2021. I think they'd only been open for like a year, and they
Nice.
got a gold for their German-style Pils. It was really, really great. And I also had their Vienna Lager, and that was amazing as well. So
That's awesome. I heard a former coworker of both of ours might be working there soon if he isn't already.
Young Jeff.
Young Jeff.
Not so young anymore, but
Well,
he was young.
It's age is nothing but a number,
They
really.
used to call him Baby Jeff.
Really bad person to quote.
Yeah.
I love that the lager scene in Austin. Like it's just there's so many amazing lagers that come out of there, and it's
really
best.
hard to explain it to people. You just have to go and see it.
yeah.
It's really incredible.
I remember going to ACBG, is it Austin City Beer Garden Brewing Company and Friends or whatever the acronym is that they actually have plus.
ABGB, Austin Beer Garden Brewing Company.
And I didn't know what it was at the time, and I had just drinking all of these lagers and be like, these are all fantastic. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Just unassuming, and I was like, oh yeah, we win GABF medals in multiple categories every year. It's like, oh, okay, got it.
I asked, like, can I have your Pilsner? And they said,
Which
one? And I said, the one that won gold at GABF. And they said,
which one?
Which one? Because they had 4 on that had all won gold at GABF on at once. That's insane.
It's absurd. It's
That's
absolutely
crazy.
absurd.
Yeah.
The other beer that kind of knocked my socks off just last week, we did a show And we had a beer from Liability Brewing Company. They're from South Carolina in Greenville. And there's a beer of theirs called Feral Garden Gnome that we drank. It's probably
Two rough names.
It might be the best Belgian blonde I've ever had.
Oh,
It was
It's high
it was
praise.
kind of like it was kind of like a Live Oak Hefeweizen version of a blonde. Like everything is just firing on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
Every sip is somehow delicious than the last one. It was outstanding.
Feral Garden Gnomes
From
Belgian Pale.
No, Liabilities, Feral Garden Gnome Belgian Pale.
Oh, the name of the beer
brewery
is Feral Garden Gnome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
And it's a Belgian blonde.
Got it.
Belgian Blonde.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, just
How strong is
beautiful.
it? Is it a Belgian blonde in like a very nice light, like an Allagash, like house beer type thing, or table beer, or is it more like a like a Duvel?
It's
or
easy.
something?
It's an easy drinking lighter blonde.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, I hadn't had that style in a while. I had a Belgian Pale, which is pretty close to a Belgian Blonde, at Art History last week, and it was really delicious. I think a lot of breweries have gotten past a lot of American breweries have gotten past the need to have every Belgian dash style taste like pink bubblegum.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. You don't need to be smashed in the face with esters anymore. They've kind of dialed it in a bit, so it was just like a little fruity, a little peppery, and just really easy drinking. Which sounds, somewhat
It's
similar to what you were saying.
It was really good. It tasted like a legit Belgian-made one, but probably better than Leffe and Affligem and La Trappe and all of those that I enjoyed years and years ago. I haven't really had them in such a long time, but man, this one just really, really did it for me.
Cool.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, I think maybe we should let's do a letter, and then maybe it'll be a good time for a break. We'll see.
Sure.
We'll see. So I've got in my hand. That means
That's
actually
paper.
I have it.
That's
Yep,
paper.
paper.
They still make it.
Yeah, people can buy it. They can write on it, and then put little street names and addresses, and then they'll show up. And hey, look, there's a little Christmas postage stamp on there. So this comes from Ben the Banker.
All right.
And it's about our Untapped review. And we've actually, I have to admit, I've not only been behind on handwritten letters, but also electronic letters, and also checking if we have electronic letters, which is really, there's very little excuse for that one.
You're shouting into the void if you're sending us an email at this
No,
point.
that's not true. That's not true, because look, I got you all right here. Nothing but love.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we got a couple of these. So I'll read one. This one's it's interesting. So these are about the Untapped deep dive show that we have. But I think everyone on the panel will be able to pick up on kind of what they're talking about. So Ben the Banker writes, Chris, Mike, and Serge, thanks for reviving the Beer Temple podcast. I've enjoyed the thoughtful subjects and deeper dives format you started doing, such as the pumpkin and pale ale and the stout one. So
Nice.
He waded through my point. I wanted to read that because he waded through the 15 minutes of silence. I hope he was just on the edge of his seat with anticipation. So, and then wrote about it.
That's
so,
his favorite part of it.
I'm sure. Yeah. Once I stopped listening, once you started talking, because he says the episodes are both informative and entertaining. Good job by you. Nice. I am a gen pop, as the industry folk like to call me. Oh, I get it now. Okay. I joined Untap in March 2015 and subscribed to the Beer Temple pod in July 2017, and I visited the Beer Temple in November of that year, 2017. Untapped in hand, he said. I've rated over 800 beers, and my average rating is 3.59. Ben the Banker, man.
Ben, tough crowd.
I love... Oh, is that not good? That's
That
out
is
of
not-
4, isn't it? Or is that a 5?
3.59 is pretty bad for an average rating.
Okay, well, hey.
Did he mention the
with you.
standard deviation?
I'm sure he will now that you've said it.
Okay.
So, yeah, get on that, Ben the Banker. Come on. Why don't you give us that info?
You know we're a
on your
stat pod.
handwritten... Yeah. I love craft beer, and I've ridden the waves and trends for 7 years now. And as much as I love beer, after listening to your Untapped podcast, I think I've been too much of a critic and should be more generous with my ratings.
Hey.
Instead,
I thought he was
Yeah.
gonna say I'm off to seltzers now.
yeah, he probably is. Instead, and for reasons I cannot explain, I have stopped rating. I just check in. I have 22 quote-unquote friends on Untapped, and only 3/4 are still active users. You're right. I don't know why I do it anymore. It's just a habit. Untapped has evolved, as you all astutely articulated, and have brewers, bottle shops, and customers. It's all good. Ride the wave of innovation, Ben the Banker. So handwritten letters get read. They just do.
Yeah,
so
have to.
so you have to send us now an electronic letter with your T-shirt size, and Mike can send you a shirt or a Beer Temple shirt if you prefer. Yeah.
I suggest an A pass fail system for Untapped rating.
Okay.
Get 5 stars or don't rate it at all. Leave it this. Check it in because you're hurting people's feelings. No, I'm just kidding. Say rate it however you feel, but.
So listen to this. So thank you very much, Ben the Banker.
Yeah, thank
It's very nice of you to actually take the time to write out a handwritten letter.
I give that letter 5 bottle caps.
Oh, absolutely. I'd give it like 3.59 personally.
That's brutal.
What? It was an average letter. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know.
Can I cuss on this
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
I fucking hate Untapped.
Yeah. Well, we were kind of talking about how it's good and bad. There are good things about it. As a business owner, it's great. Their ability to like make menus and stuff is not the electronic ones on like TV screens, but like you can print out menus. Stuff like that is nice. And it is nice to have a one place where you can just pretty much find any beer. There's some good things, but I do think that all of these ratings, as they get easier and easier, people just kind of simplify how they shop for beer, and they just do it as bottle caps. As I've said it many times on the show, I'm all for that, and I now kind of think entirely. I quantify things in bottle caps.
Everything
So,
must be quantified.
as a bottle cap.
Yeah.
1 to 5 bottle caps. Today I was critiquing the dinner that my wife prepared for our family. Gave it 3.59 bottle caps. Then I left and said, I'm out.
Yikes.
I don't think you'll be having any more children from this point. I do like how, in essence, this show acted as an intervention for Ben the Banker.
There you go.
My mom always told me, hey, Keith, you shouldn't judge, which is why, I never sit in on professional judging panels because I really just misunderstood her. But it sounds like Ben has really turned a corner here, and maybe he will not be judging things quite so harshly. This may extend into other areas of his life as well. And wouldn't it be great if we could have this effect on everyone to make people judge a little less?
What a wonderful sentiment.
Crap.
Merry Christmas, Keith.
Thanks.
I will say we got another Untapped email from Dave Persh, ushering very, very similar sentiments as Ben the Banker, and he says, he just he kind of scrolls. He used to just kind of scroll through, but now he does check in, and he will only do so if he leaves a review. But he does, think that there's some. He was very much also in favor and enjoyed the show. So thank you to Dave Persh. But here's what I wanted to mention. We have another letter about the Untapped show from someone who wants to go by Johnny Thunder. Okay.
I guess we will
And
oblige.
he says there's some stuff that he doesn't want read, which is fine. Remember, I should say, I haven't said this in a long time. However you sign your email is how we will refer to you. Because some people are industry folk and they don't want to be, they don't want to say, like, I don't know, go public with
Right, like
some
when
of that
Vinny
stuff.
Treluzzo writes in, he doesn't want people to know.
No,
Sorry.
He goes by Johnny Thunder.
Sorry, Johnny.
What are you doing?
My
He
bad,
goes
Johnny.
he goes by Chili Velurzo.
Exactly. Joey Fafungats. That's what we used to.
Your Phillies showing.
Yeah, exactly. So here's what Johnny Thunder writes. He said, I'll admit that I've given inauthentic, untapped ratings to influence beers from the brewery I work at. I may have thrown a 4 or 5 to try to balance out a Darren's unsophisticated palate. Shout out to Darren again. But one good rating doesn't sway much, and I don't think it's particularly dishonest. I'm writing because I also do something more sinister. I do a self-Darren. I've given beers that I've brewed a 0.25 rating, which is the lowest possible rating, the one that Darren honestly felt your beer warranted, Mike. Anyway, he's given given beers that I've brewed a 0.25 rating. These are the gross hype beers that I never wanted to brew in the first place, and I think do more harm than good to our brewery portfolio. I'm the head brewer, but sometimes I have to brew some nonsense that I really don't approve of. So I'll give it a low Darren rating in order to drag the ratings down. Plus, I have a suspicion that the first 20 ratings really impact the rest of them for a small release.
That's definitely true.
I think the existing average impacts the ratings that people pick. I've seen reviews where people reference the current average in a text of a review. Interesting. I think the existing average impacts the ratings that people
Absolutely.
pick.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's an
Because you
anchoring
see,
phenomenon.
you should not
I
be,
see what you're
you
saying,
should
yeah.
not be able to see the average rating until you have rated.
Yes.
That
True.
should not. You should not let that.
Great idea.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Untapped. If
I mean,
you're listening,
for us, but not for them.
they're not. They actually might be. They actually
even my
might be.
brother, I untapped him. Is that what you say when you untap somebody?
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, he's like, I gave this a 4.25." I'm like, the average is 3.7, so you're wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong.
You're
It's
obviously
wrong.
wrong.
All those other people with the free accounts, they're the experts.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Johnny Thunder goes on. He says, let me just take a minute to say it. Untapped sucks. But since I know the sales bro who keeps demanding these garbage beers is looking at the app, I can ensure the most heinous beers we make aren't going to be brewed again. In a different case, we also had a one-off from a previous brewer that had an unnaturally high rating considering it was some ridiculous 5-gallon release, and I'm pretty sure half of the 12 reviewers knew him personally. So I just went in there and gave it a 0.25 to balance it out and knock it out of the top spot.
The black hat on tap.
Cheers, cheers, Johnny Thunder. I thought you guys would like
I want
this
to hang
one.
out with Johnny.
Johnny Thunder
Yeah,
rocks.
right?
Untapped
He's a
vigilante.
beer freedom fighter.
Yeah. This was an admitted untapped tomfoolery from a brewer. Well, thank you, Johnny Thunder. Any thoughts on Mr. Thunder's antics?
I
mean, thank you for
Yeah,
electronic
thank you for
mailing
writing in.
us. Yeah.
I fully condone it. I also think it's just
Now you're now saying that you essentially may or may not do that to your own beers. when
I
you
mean, I
fully
may or may
condone it.
not be Johnny Thunder.
Oh, that's true.
I'm also, yeah, I'm just shocked that,
It's a lot of effort.
yeah, well, and I'm shocked that, you say, okay, it's an easy way for consumers to decide whether or not a beer is going to be good by the number of bottle caps there are.
Right.
But it's amazing to me that on the production side, you would say like, oh, that didn't rate well. And be like,
right.
I'm not going to make it again. Like, what?
I was talking to a
Well,
friend.
that's how you're going to make your decisions and then those things are so weighted by the 0.25, just statistically. For every 0.25, you need X amount of fives to get back up to a 4 or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to a friend who works at a relatively popular brewery trafficking in these styles, and they pay almost no attention to their sales and all the attention to the untapped rating. The sales, they're selling everything, so it doesn't really matter. So they just they don't want to make beers that aren't scoring as high as other beers they could be making. It's kind of bonkers.
That's stupid.
It's great. It's
Why is it so? Explain why that is stupid, Dave.
Why that is stupid? Because everybody should be able to express their brewing creativity in their own way, not necessarily the feedback they get from people with free internet accounts.
So what you're saying is you want people to pay more for the internet, and then they'll give you more accurate.
Yeah, if you had to,
Skin in the game,
you had to
Chris.
go. You had to go to do training with Keith and drink a bunch of beer with Keith, and then go and rate them. Sure, whatever. But it's all these amateurs think that it's good. It's not even all of them. It's just how many people dislike it more than anything.
I will say to the previous electronic letter writer, Dave, he said that he is a level 1 Cicerone at least, so he does.
Good. So he's a pro.
Yeah, so he's...
Cicerone.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean that as... I'm not saying that as shade, Dave, by the way. I'm just letting them know that yes. Anyway.
I mean, I completely agree with you, Dave. And I think there's a bifurcation depending on when you kind of got into beer as to how you approach that, right? Later, more recent breweries are probably more attuned to Untapped or to whatever the rating system is and how to use it to their advantage, whereas people that got into it earlier, like, I have something that I want to express, and that's why I'm doing this. It's interesting.
It's not something that we see sort of in my world of brewing education, the effect of these social media review services. Have Untapped actually shown the effect that they have on beer sales, on breweries, on tasting rooms? Have they got statistics to show that if you aren't really obeying and behaving in a way that their raters would like you to, that your business will suffer from it?
No, I don't think it is the case necessarily. Like that is true. I haven't seen their data for that. Maybe they do, and I'm sure they could frame it in some way. They have a lot of data, but
they have salespeople, right, that go around and talk to you about their services and the importance of.
It's mostly
what they can
retail based, but they are starting very soon to reach out and start to do a big shift into supply side. So maybe that will be something they do, that people who use Untapped are more likely to...
The Yelp model?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, you pay us money, we'll take down these reviews.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll give you $20, take down Darren R's review right now. Yeah,
I'm going to find Darren R.
Some of the
and
best
friend him and toast that check-in.
It's one way to run a brewery is to be very attentive to Untapped and to cater to a market that matters for, right? But there's 9,000 ways to run a brewery. There's 9,000 breweries in America now, right?
Yeah.
And so some of the best-selling beers have 3.6 ratings, which is not great. I don't know. It's just when you make a small amount of beer, you can use it as a tool to prove that your beer is worthy of the prices you're charging.
I guess the point is, listener, just because a beer has a bad rating or an average rating or a 3.59 rating on Untapped doesn't mean you can't enjoy it.
Right.
It might be your favorite beer.
I mean, try it first too, right?
I mean,
try
so
it first and then look at it.
Look up the Untapped rating of that Belgian pale that you just absolutely, the Belgian blonde that you totally loved. I would love to know what that rating is.
And then tell me how many reviews you have to scroll through to see a perfect Belgian blonde 3.2 stars.
What's the one that you saw the other day about your spruce tip beer?
Oh yeah, I was going to say there are some very fun ones that we've gotten recently. One that says a review of the Maestro, which is Darren R's least favorite beer they've ever had. This one says, super interesting, light smoke, fruity, light agave character, very light carb. Darren R is off his rocker, and he gives it a nice score. But we have a spruce tip beer that we release every Christmas, and someone ordered one recently. Let me see if I can find it. I'm on Untapped right now. Gave it 1 star.
Cool.
And wrote...
I think you said 2. It was 1?
No, it's 1.
1. Okay.
And the review was, as advertised, period, pine needles, period, 1 bottle cap.
Nice.
So Bert R, just keep your money. I don't need. I'm sorry.
Advertised.
I'm sorry.
This looks like I'm going to absolutely hate it. Yeah. Here's my money.
Why did you buy it?
Wow, he was right.
It's so
I
confounding.
got this smoked beer. I hate smoked beers. I hate it.
Yeah. I'm genuinely sorry you bought that, but
you got it,
screw
John?
you, dude.
Yeah, this Feral Garden Gnome from Liability, it's got a 3.81.
Is that good?
Out of 5,
fine.
yeah, I guess
It's
is.
fine. Right, but it's
not making
love,
any lists.
so it's not going to make any lists. It's not going to make somebody, if somebody saw that, if they were thinking about getting a beer and they looked it up and they saw a 3.8, would they probably not get it then, right? Or
depends
they
if they
maybe
want a
think
Belgian
twice.
pale or not. Then
Well, the
I
point being,
honestly-
like, you
honestly
might miss
have
out
no-
on it.
I have no idea. I stopped doing Untapped maybe 7 years ago. I maybe got like 600 beers in before I realized, oh, my friends are having fun without me. So then I just stopped untapping, and then I
Excuse me.
became social again.
Yep, we talked
No,
about that exact same thing. Both Doug Valicki and I had the exact same experience. We'll take a quick break, but before we do, I also want to mention yet another electronic letter from Anthony that came in earlier today, and it just said at number 239, no audio. He didn't listen to the entire, to wait through it, which I understand. So I wrote him back and said we got it corrected. And then he wrote that he was going to send a letter to let us know. He was going to actually write a letter to let us know.
he should have written us a blank
But he
letter.
figured the electronic letter worked pretty well. That would have been amazing. Imagine getting a letter, especially as long as it takes in Chicago for the Postal Service.
It's just a blank piece of paper.
Or just being like, yeah, episode 239 has no audio.
Oh my God.
That
If
would have
he's-
been amazing.
It would have been great if it was like stapled 53 pages of paper and then the letters like the last 2 pages.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that would have been that would have been good. That would have been good. But I thought that was funny. Just the
Oh, this
Tired
is
show.
the host yawns into the mic. Come on.
well, yeah, it's just how it is, guys.
Do you have any coffee stout?
I'll edit that out. Won't edit that out. No, it wasn't an actual. I just sneezed and I've got a whole
he was
thing
breathing
going.
deeply with his mouth wide
Yes.
open.
Yeah, no, it was a yawn, but it
Silence
wasn't
on
a.
this episode right here.
It wasn't a bored or tired yawn.
It's okay. We forgot to record all this so far. So
I'm a fan of this truth in advertising leaf turn you just did.
yeah. So I think
break.
it's a good time to
Chris
take a
is gonna
break.
take a nap.
the
I'll take
second
a
half's
nap.
gonna be banger.
We'll fill up our glasses and come back and for us a few minutes. For you guys, it'll be instantaneous, or it could be 15 minutes of silence. You don't know.
You never know.
You got to wait and see. You can't fast forward. No
It's
skipping.
avant-garde.
See you guys at some point. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I am Chris. I'm one of your hosts, and I'm pointing, although you can't see it at Mike, who's another one of the hosts.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm totally.
After 10 years, you'll.
Yeah, I took
get
some
45-minute nap.
Took some uppers. Yeah, no, this is completely drug induced.
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
This is gonna go off the
I
rails.
took some NoDoz, some kind of
Wow.
trucker meds, and I'm ready to go.
All right.
We'll
Good.
probably get in a fight later, just not with Blight.
Fight.
No. Nobody ever wants to fight Bleitner.
No.
Bleitner want to fight everybody.
Yes. So let's we talked a lot about Untapped and we're gonna now talk about. I had it called Not Quite Beer News. So everyone who listens to the show regularly knows what that means. It means we're about to talk about like seltzers and stuff like that. So, and that's what we're going to talk about. So, I mean, there are kind of two parts to it, but maybe we'll let's first like check in with that. I think it was like Goldman Sachs who had the assessment that there was a seltzer reckoning that they were predicting was coming,
Right.
And that they thought that it was going to hurt the smaller players the most, but that kind of everybody, people weren't really growing their seltzer sets by much, and they weren't really expecting a ton of growth, and the growth that they were expecting was from the big guys, which would be like White Claw, Truly, and Topo Chico, I think maybe was like a distant third.
But if you look at it, it's really White Claw and Truly occupied 90% of the airspace.
Yeah, yeah,
And
they
even
figured
that's
that was gonna
mostly
be-
White Claw, isn't it?
It is. Yep.
Yeah, like Truly's like
Just roll in the pallets and put them right in the
Yes.
middle of the floor, and like, yeah, that's good enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
They'll buy it.
But then you sent along an article,
Yes.
Mike, that you found interesting. Can you introduce that a little bit?
Well, it was the Beer Purchasers Index, which I don't have much prior knowledge about, but it was doing year-over-year sales for different categories, and comparing imports to craft to premium lights to regular premium, and blah 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 blah, and then FMB seltzer and cider. And seltzer FMB is way down. On their metrics last year, it would be 100. The index, whatever number they made up with, was nearly 100, and now it's down to what looks like about 30. So everything else was vaguely the same or down a little bit. Imports were up about from 50 to 75. It looks like on this draft. Craft was flat. Premium lights were up. Premium regular was up. Below premium was about the same. Cider was about the same. But seltzer was a third of what it was last year over year for February packaged goods sales.
No, it's interesting. I mean, I guess we could think of it a few different ways. I mean, I guess it could be the beginning of the end, or it could just be, well, maybe people realized year over year that they don't really like seltzer in the winter, and they're going to save it for summertime or something like that.
Right. I think there was also a lot of probably pipe fill happening in that too, where getting it out to the places could be a different story than actually getting a lot of regular
Mixel's
pull
favorite
through.
term. Yeah,
Pipe fill.
pipe fill.
Well, I remember I was a shareholder in Boston Beer Company, and you watched this crazy run up they had up to like almost $1,300 a share when all the Truly numbers were coming in, what they were shipping to distributors, and then there's just a precipitous drop where it went back to like 350, which is still quite high for the stock, but there was like a 6-month period where it was like
Insane.
let's go crazy, and then you realize it's like, oh, that was all mostly like based on projections that were not sustainable and kind of
Like if everything continued to sell as fast as the initial stocking.
right. If everything was going to be 100% growth every month forever, it should go up to about $1,300, but it just careened back down, and that could be what a lot of these products are doing.
Also, 2020 offered a fair degree of distortion in the market
Absolutely.
because we moved away from on-premise drinking of draft beer to buying a lot of the stuff and taking it home.
But this would be 2021 over 2022, right? I assume. Or
This
no?
is 2021 over 2022.
That is,
Yeah,
it's hard to build a lot of trend and stats on these
Yeah,
things because,
crazy.
of course, seltzer's really only been popular for about 4 to 5 years now.
Right.
It existed before that, but this massive escalation of
Yeah.
sales is about 4 to 5 years old. Then you had in 2020 a distortion in the marketplace in which a lot of people were just going in and buying stuff to take home. What we're left with, I think, is a little bit difficult to figure. You have to look at 2022 over 2021. And predictions, of course, I think those predictions, there's a gentleman that works at a university in Vermont that has a brewing course that primarily specializes, it does technology, but it also specializes in business. And he was the one that first brought up that the seltzer market is probably going to continue to grow, but absolutely dominated by White Claw and Truly. And last year, on Craft Beer Professionals on Facebook, probably in a fit of some consumption of ethanol, I at night wrote something to the effect of that seltzer is made from sugar and beer is made from cereal. If we can't win the argument as to which is better for you, then we really aren't trying. The next day I get up and have a whole bunch of brewers who are crapping on me saying, you don't know anything about brewing because all alcohol is the same. And literally saying that regardless if it's made from barley or if it's made from sugar, it's all alcohol. Of course, Siebel Institute's partners over in Germany are Doman's Academy and the German brewing schools and German brewing culture. includes the consumption of beer as part of your diet because beer is made from cereal grain.
Right.
And it's not just providing you with ethanol, it's providing you with other benefits of cereal grain.
So do these guys who think that all alcohol fermentation is the same, do they wonder why they have to add more nutrient to their sugar washes they're making seltzer out of, or they didn't think that far?
Never came up that some people got the intention of the post and said, no, you guys don't understand. We're not talking about the amount or type of ethanol that's in it. We're talking about everything but that.
Right. Literally, you missed the whole the whole of this.
And there is a perception, I think, for younger people especially, and really it's not just younger people, it's every age group, that when you look at only calories and carbohydrates, those are the defining factors as to the potential negative, detrimental effects aside from ethanol and what we're consuming. We never actually stop to say, well, what else is there that we're actually consuming? What is the alcoholic beverage made from? For those of us that choose to drink alcoholic beverages, well, if it's made from wine, we know that wine contains antioxidants and other nutrients, trace nutrients. We know that beer contains folic acid, B vitamins, zinc, magnesium, selenium, contains a lot of other stuff. I'm not saying you should base your diet on beer, but can't we actually open up the conversation a little bit more to what it is we're actually consuming aside from alcohol?
Well, we got a question in electronic letter form from a friend of the show, Jack from Glen Ellen.
My buddy, what's up, Jack?
And he says, "Hey, Mike and Chris." So he says, "Hey, back." He says
that time.
he saw that. And I think it's somewhat related to it's very much related to what you were just saying, Keith, as he says, I saw that AV is releasing Bud Light Next, which has 0 carbs. I know lots has been said about the younger consumers' interest in quote-unquote healthier beer, but I was more interested in what this product actually is. How would you go about making a beer without carbs, or is this some type of flavored alcohol? And then just to piggyback onto that, I also saw that Athletic Brewing, which is now likely to be a top 50 BA brewery.
Nostra Douglas nailed it.
Yes, is going to be, they're making a light beer. So all their beer is NA, but it's going to be a light version that has 5 carbs, 0 sugar, and 25 calories. So it looks like people are definitely going into this, quote unquote healthier space, quote unquote, because of what you just said, Keith. But what would you say, any of you guys out there, to Jack's question, how do you go about making a beer without carbs, or is it just beer flavored alcohol, like you said?
I have no idea. You'd have to ask Bud Light, and I'm sure they won't tell me.
I imagine it's absolute enzymatic reduction of whatever carbohydrate you have in it. So if you can use enzymes to actually break down whatever sort of longer chain sugars, absolutely to the point where they're consumed by yeast, then that means you're creating potentially alcohol and CO2. You still have calories, and of course, ethanol does have calories to it. But that's what I would assume would be the methodology that they would use. What do you end up with in the way of flavor and aroma as well? Because you would hope that you would have some flavor, some aroma that would be attractive to the consumer.
Now, this is the question. If you do that enzymatic breakdown, what's actually left?
Well,
Ethanol and
Is
water.
that different from using cane sugar? I mean, I'm asking. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, it is in essence you're using a biological methodology of breaking it down. You're not sort of fractionating it using heat, but I'm sure there must be a way to actually simply just use enzymes to break sugar or carbohydrate
you can use
sources down.
enzymes to break down the husk of the grain if you really want to. I mean,
And so that's where they're going to. And, if people want basically an ethanol delivery system, that's the equivalent of a grain-made vodka and soda, well, that's fine. You don't have to necessarily put it through a distillation function in order to be able to end up with pretty much pure ethanol and water. You can do that biochemically as well. And not to say that, Budweiser Next is going to be some sort of chemically created beverage. Enzymes are all around us. We're constantly built on the function of enzymes. How we make beer is dependent on enzymes. And if you can choose the right ones that can result in basically just alcohol and some calories attributable to the alcohol, then give it a shot. And if the consumer likes it, the consumer likes it.
I find it interesting. This is a Bud Light beer product.
I think they just have to do,
Yeah, that's their brand.
Like it's, but it's
brand
not.
extension.
It's not a seltzer. Like, it
Well,
would be-
this is what it is.
Wasn't there Bud Light
technically.
seltzer as well?
Yeah, but this says it's a beer. It's like they're
no.
billing it as a beer, right?
Listen, Mike. Listen.
Mike,
At
sit
zero
down.
zero carbs, 80 calories, and 4% ABV, Bud Light Next is a super crisp, light beer with the stats for those who have long desired a beer that breaks the barriers of a traditional lager and offers the sessionability and stats of a seltzer. That's what it is.
But they are selling it as a beer. This isn't like a.
I don't know if they said that. Oh, light
they said-
beer. No, they
yeah,
said
it says
light
there.
beer.
Light beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the carbs on a regular Bud Light?
It's like 6 or something.
I don't know what it is.
Probably around 100, I would imagine.
I would think
The carbs on
The
a-
carbs.
Bud Light.
10 carbs.
10 carbs.
Traditional Budweiser
sorry,
is 10
calories.
carbs.
Traditional Budweiser, not Bud Light.
Correct. Bud
So Bud
Heavy
Light
is
is-
10 carbs.
So Bud Light is probably few, like, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And it's funny how they have like questions that just come up in a Google search that like people have asked. People also ask, is Bud Light next keto? The answer
It
is
would be.
This is going to be the next big thing in beer. Keto dieters rejoice.
I mean, it's not though, because alcohol can't really be keto because your body will consume the alcohol before it consumes the. This is not a conversation.
So listen to
We'll
this.
finish it at least.
Here's some
before
more
it consume-
interesting-
You're supposed to be training your body to consume fat, but it will consume the alcohol
Bud Light
before it
Next
consumes
is
the fat,
made
so you'll
with-
fall out of ketosis.
It's made
Thank
with
you.
malted barley, rice, and water. So making a beer and getting carbs out of a product with those ingredients is very, 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 very challenging. Bud Light vice president of marketing recently told USA Today.
That's what the brewers tell the vice president of
Yes.
marketing. They're like, it was
very,
really hard.
very, very
and
challenging.
they're like, how hard
You
was
missed-
it? And they're like, really hard.
Yeah, it's super.
and
How
he's
many-
like, I'll tell everybody else that.
I've got an interview with USA Today. How many varies? Oof, boy,
3 varies.
At least
3
4,
vary caps.
4 varies.
4
All right,
very caps.
Let's bring in the focus group. How many varies do we need on this?
Exactly.
Would you drink a beer that's very hard to make?
yeah.
What if it was very, very hard to make? What if it was very, very, very hard to make?
Now
Take
I'm
my money.
interested.
What if
Yeah.
it was very, 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 very hard to make? Would you pay a premium price for that?
No, I stopped listening after the third vary.
Yeah.
What also if it were triple hopped? Right
Oh,
there.
wow.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, then you got me back.
Yeah.
I'm in now.
Yeah, it's got to happen.
Yeah,
Bud Light
serving a
Next.
chalice.
It's the next big thing. It's the new thing. This is going to be the new thing in beer. That's per Gear Patrol, guys.
I don't know. I think the alcoholic Mountain Dew is where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just yeah. I think it's the next thing. Everybody loves Mountain Dew.
Didn't we do this already though?
Yeah.
Like, isn't this
Didn't we
just
do all this already?
Isn't this rebranding Mike's Hard Lemonade? Like,
Or
Is it-
Sparks.
Or
the band?
not your father's root beer.
yeah, they literally had a Mountain Dew flavor.
Yeah.
Did they really?
It wasn't branded as Mountain Dew, but it was like, it was Mountain
Country
Dew
Valley.
flavored. Yeah, right.
It's got poison in it.
Big Hill water drops. It was-
Right. Mhm.
And how many of these concepts have come and gone in the time that Sierra Nevada Pale Ale has been on the market, which has
What, you have one?
undergone
Can I have
a
one?
resurgence in the last 3 years like you can't believe. And, it's back to being something that we use as a benchmark for American craft brewing. And beer is still beer. You may not be selling quite as much or make as much noise about the flagship beers that have been around for a while, but still there's a big place in the market for pale ales and IPAs. Younger people may want to look for things that are more adventurous and something they're going to try once and log it into Untapped, but there's still a lot of room for flagship beer out there.
I think flagship beer is maybe trying to make a bit of a mini comeback, personally.
Well, this is a good connection to the Untapped conversation, right? Where Untapped only shows you a portion of beer consumers, right? They sell infinitely more a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale or Allagash White or Trumer Pills, all of which that are like 3.5s or lower. then they sell anything from Treehouse or whatever the hot new thing is, or the thing that you might be building your brewery around because it gets better on tap scores. So just keep it in for people out there running breweries. Keep that in mind, that you're only getting a portion. Even if you are a hyped up brewery, you're only getting a portion of the people that are actually buying your beer are on checking it on Untapped, and there could be.
And that portion is
I
probably
mean,
relative.
Sierra Nevada is 363.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's barely above average per Ben the Banker.
Yeah, but Ben gave it a.
But it is above average.
Ben drank it 143,000.
I don't know. Just like I remember seeing something about how when you look at those top lists of the top rated things, they're all imperial stouts or double IPAs, and it's just not true. That it's just not possible that the 100 best beers in the world, 80 of them are above 9% alcohol and the most intense drinking.
What do you think,
experience.
John?
It
You're
just
still
can't be
here?
True.
Yeah.
I think it's wild.
Yeah.
It's a wild ride, man.
Like at some point, just mix something with like seltzer water. Like just, I don't know, man. I like the non-alcoholic beer thing coming out because I don't like to drink a bunch of alcohol. But it seems like this really weird arms race that's going to end at the brick wall of water.
Water's been on a
think
winning
you're
streak
right.
for
Man,
millenniums. Yeah.
I've been drinking water my whole life.
Yeah. I give water
Yeah.
about 2.5 bottle caps.
But is it filtered?
Depends.
What kind of filtered? Carbon?
Charcoal.
know.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
All
up,
right.
John?
There's gonna be the one that's like 4 carbs and then quadruple hopped, and then it'll be like 10 calories. Or who cares, man? Like you can only cut that thing so thin before it just doesn't mean anything anymore.
Well, I'm curious about the athletic one because I think a lot of people are drinking that beer because it's healthier. So will an incrementally healthier version of it do really, really well? If you're going to get an athletic, how much are you drinking it for flavor, or how much are you drinking it to be healthy?
Well, I think they're also, for them, it's going after a different consumer base, right? Because their other products are an IPA, they make a stout, and they make lager. Like, they make things that are geared towards people who are replacing drinking craft beer with drinking NA beer. This is their first foray into people that are drinking mainstream macro
Big
lager.
Ultra or whatever, yeah.
Right. I think, and I remember on the show for years we would talk about how Mick Ultra was like the only growing brand owned by a macro beer company. So if they can come, and Athletic was already clearly an attempt at that market. So they can come in and give them something that's almost exactly a replacement level thing, but now there's no alcohol in it, and you guys weren't really getting drunk anyway because that stuff's like 2.8% alcohol.
Yeah.
And maybe Athletic's like a cooler brand among that set. There's a lot more money behind Mick Ultra, but this is the first. I feel like this is their foray into the larger beer drinking populace.
Be very interesting to see how it goes. How even within their portfolio, how it performs.
Yeah.
Like I could see it. You know, I don't know. I guess I don't see it doing that poorly. I could see it doing decently, and I could see it doing.
I could see it
really
crushing
well.
because they also have so much less regulation around it, right? They can put it in places that you can't put.
They can
Mick
ship it
Ultra.
directly to you.
They can ship it directly to you. They can probably put it at places at marathons or 5Ks or whatever. Like they can be places that you can't just give alcohol away. So I don't know. I think that for them it makes a lot of sense.
I'm really always surprised that none of the brewing companies that have good quality alcohol-free beer are plugging it into convenience stores that don't sell alcoholic beverages and put it in the same place as soft drinks. And I would imagine that there may be some consternation if little Billy goes inside of their 7-Eleven and buys a Heineken 00 and takes it back to school and is on the school playground drinking a bottle of Heineken. But at the same time,
The coolest kid on the playground.
what would you rather have Billy drinking? Something, again, made from cereal grains or a bottle of Coke?
Right. Also, that probably has way less sugar because
Yeah.
the sugar's fermented out, or there
Yes.
never were that many sugars in the first place, right?
And less poison.
Right.
Right.
And
like
kombucha.
an athletic light. Would you rather have a child drink an athletic light or a Coke.
Well, this is just cultural now, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're in Belgium or Germany, those kids are probably, at least a couple generation ago, would be drinking low alcohol beer anyway. But here, it's probably very taboo in most of
But
them.
this is zero alcohol, right? So,
Right.
Yeah.
But the idea
I want to
that
start.
Yeah, go
I want
ahead.
to start. I want to start a business where I make really healthy hamburgers, so that when people who only eat hamburgers want a healthier option, they can go and have my healthy hamburger because that's their identity. They're just eating hamburgers and like, oh, now I can eat hamburgers all the time because I have these healthy ones that I can eat when I'm watching my figure. Like, drink some water, y'all.
Yeah, right?
A tea is good.
drink
Just some
everything.
tea,
Like, I don't
black tea.
only drink beer. I love beer, but man, once in a while I'll have a sparkling water and it hits the spot. I drink more of that than beer. Like, try that for
Right.
once.
Right.
Just-
I'm with you. That's kind of how I feel. Like if I want a beer, I drink beer.
Right.
If I don't want to drink, then don't drink beer.
I think the biggest market, obviously, for these NA beers is for social events in which you want to feel socially part of the drinking culture, but you don't actually want to consume alcohol. That has to be the main reason for these things, right?
I'd like to
can't-
believe that.
I don't know.
I'd like to believe that, but there is literally an arms race and who could get the lightest beer out there.
Right.
Bud Light
but
next.
But he's saying, John, for the NA, right? Was I
Yeah,
getting that right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That NA beers are for
okay.
people that are at a social event and don't want to drink, but don't want to feel left out or feel.
I don't think that's necessarily true. I think if I have something that's flavorful that's non-alcoholic, I would have it.
Sure.
I think my biggest problem with an NA stuff is just it's the same price as the A stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be like, oh, I'm gonna pay $10 for this when it's like, I don't get the buzz.
I mean, I kind of like some of those in the style of Mars's CBD elixirs, and there's others doing it. The stuff that is more like adult-oriented flavors without, it's not doesn't need to be soda and stuff like that. And those I do tend
I love
to
that
really
stuff.
like those.
Yeah.
But I don't want this is a personal thing. I don't want beer in that setting. Like I'm okay with it being something different. It can
in
be
what
bitter
setting,
or
like, that you're.
in any
What is the
setting where
setting?
I want to not be drinking alcohol, but have something that has kind of interesting flavors and that I can just kind of sip on and not be having alcohol. And I have at this bar, gotten like CBD elixirs when I'm sitting there talking to people and don't feel like drinking because maybe it's in the middle of the day and I know I'll get tired and start yawning on the mic or something like that. So I'm all for it. I just don't think non-alcoholic beer is for me.
Yeah, I think there's a big assumption being made by a lot of these companies also that this is something that's going to transfer into normal, like at-home purchases as well, right? That people are going to buy non-alcoholic beer to drink at home instead of beer. And I'm sure some small percentage of people will, but
I do.
yeah.
Are you crying?
I buy non-alcoholic. I buy non-alcoholic beers just to have for summer. I put them into my cooler for people to reach in and grab an NA beer, and I have about 1 out of every 2 beer would be a non-alcoholic beer. And
So you're
it's-
like the exact type of drinker that they're marketing to.
There's not a single demographic group, and it isn't even a couple of demographic groups from Europe, especially. Again, looking at the way the Germans look at beer as being part of their diet. When you go into restaurants and bars, you will see a large percentage of alcoholic beer being served to customers, because one person within a group at a table has to drive generally. If you have 0.02 amount of alcohol in your system and you are stopped, you will lose your license. You will pay thousands to get it back. Drinking and driving in many parts of the world is a major problem. Now, here you go. It's not quite as much a problem. Back in Vancouver, people are way much more sensitive than they are here about drinking and driving. And here I can be at Goose Island and be sitting next to someone for 3 hours who gets their keys out and gets in their car. Sooner or later, they're going to get into an accident that isn't their fault because they're probably still relatively sober. And the officer's going to say, "Have you had anything to drink tonight, sir?" Can I make you blow into this tube? Oh, may I have your keys? Can you pull over? Can you show up in court in 2 weeks? That's a reality for people who have to drive for a living. They need to start paying attention to that, because if you can't drive, you're kind of screwed.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And there's just, people have all sorts of different reasons for not drinking alcohol, and that like the flavor of beer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the non-beer flavored options for non-alcoholic beverages has become incredibly robust in America in the last even 2 years.
It's beverages within every class.
Yeah.
When I was a boy, all we had was your Coke and your Pepsi and your.
Wow, you must have been from the far south of Canada.
your weak Mountain Dews.
We basically had a very limited selection of popular sodas, and now when you walk into even my Target store across the street, they have got one linear showcase that runs 15 feet by 5 shelves deep, refrigerated, of kombucha and non-alcoholic beverage selections. Mm-hmm. And then you go to the soda area, it's 2 aisles like that. It's not just beer that's being affected by this, it's every sector of the beverage market. We just concentrate on beer. Mm-hmm. That's what we talk about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, no wonder you're the favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to mention one more thing about all the insane letters that we've gotten, because there's another type that we got a whole new type of letter, also electronic, but a new type. We have
was it a robot pigeon that brought it?
It was an electronic voice mail.
Oh, wow.
Somebody sent us. I'm not going to play it. It's 19 minutes. It's 19 minutes long.
But the first 18 minutes are...
Yeah, it's a silence.
So I'm going to send it to you. It's from Matt. So he said if you didn't listen to it, just lie and say that you did. But I know you, Mike, and you will listen to it.
Basically like a podcast for us.
Replied with
Let's just put out Matt's
our next episode.
Yeah, a little short from Matt.
So I'm sending that to you right now. I will listen to it, but I know you will listen to it. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
Matt, that's wild. Thanks, bud.
The first 12 minutes are blank.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's finish. Well, I don't even know if we need to finish. We have one show before. Well, we can do this very quickly. This is just a question that I kind of have for you guys. So next Thursday is St. Paddy's Day, or by the time you guys are listening to this, last Thursday was St. No, I mean, I'll try to. I'm getting better at getting them out on time, Mike. These episodes, I'm almost.
You're doing
caught
pretty
up.
well.
I'm doing pretty good.
Very impressed recently.
So it's going to be the not entirely normal, but the most normal St. Patrick's Day in since 2019. Here in Chicago, we'll have had no mask mandate for 3 weeks at the time. At that time, I'm curious how like the big places are going to do, because I was not at any. I didn't go anywhere last year for it, but I do remember it was almost like a living wake, St. Patrick's Day in 2020, because like the
2021. Oh, you didn't go anywhere last year. 2020.
Yeah,
'Cause
2020.
they had just closed things down.
Well, things were like it hadn't been. I don't know if things had been announced or were being.
It was the Monday after that weekend, because we
Yes.
had an event on March 15th at the apartment next to me. People getting together, and it was because on Monday everything was going to be shutting down.
Right.
The Friday before that, met with guys at Goose Island on Clybourne Street who were the regulars there, and sort of about 5 or 6 of us all sitting at one end of the bar. And as you say, it really felt like you were there to mourn something.
Yes.
And I looked at these guys who were older than me, and that's saying something, and thinking, are we all still going to be around in 1 year? Mm-hmm. Right?
Whoa.
Because you didn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a bad weekend.
Yeah, that was crazy. And
I was here at the beer temple when they were like, "Oh, they're
Oh,
shutting
that
things
really would have been
down
a
on
bad
Yeah.
weekend. But,
Yeah.
well, no,
yeah.
it's a good
no,
place.
I remember
It's not
going
a similar thing of like you're having people over because like we can't do this on Monday. So, but I better have another beer while I'm here.
Yep.
But it's funny now that you say that, Pat. I mean, I was at Patty Long's. I always would go and visit a friend, Pat Berger, on St. Patrick's Day. It was like a living wake.
See all your Patricks.
Yes,
a lot
and
of
it was listless in there, maybe
Scary, man.
scary, and to your point, Keith, that place isn't around anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to say why it was, if it was because of the pandemic or wasn't, but yeah, Patty Long's is not around anymore.
It's emerged like a phoenix. They make pizzas now. It's
Yes.
different. They've rebranded.
Yes.
Not like it.
But I did then go to another place, Chief O'Neill's. That place was still cranking
Yeah.
pretty hard. But I'm curious, what do you guys think this St. Patrick's Day is going to be like? And more importantly, do you think whatever it's like will kind of be a bellwether for where things may be going?
I think at the classic St. Patrick's Day places, it's going to be a complete shit show.
You think people
A
are
complete-
ready
2
to
2 p.m. people
shit
passed
show.
out, throwing up.
Yeah, it's
Then
going to
the second shift comes in.
It's going to be people who don't know how to act anymore. It's like it's going to be a complete
So like
mess.
even extra messy.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I think possibly their
it's a mess
tolerance
usually.
might have gone up over the last 2 years.
That's true.
So
But they're in
like,
public.
oh, I don't have to-
But they're in public now, and they're doing shots, and they're not able to like crawl back home, like crawl back to their
yeah,
bed.
but
so-
they drink a Home Alone, practicing for this day. This is it.
Yeah.
It is time.
But my mom's from the South Side. My cousin runs a bar on the South Side that is a notorious spot for the South Side Irish Parade parties, and like they would make their nut for the year in one of these parties.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're not going to be like, we should be a little cautious.
No.
And none of these bars are going to be like, maybe we should like not have so many people in here. It's going to be how many people want to come out, how
The
many people want
city
to fit
or
in
the
here.
city says you're allowed to do it.
Right.
So
So it's going to be in
Judging
it's going to
from
be a
the
disaster.
Judging from the Mousetrap Tap Room from last weekend when it was like 60 degrees for a few hours, it's going to be a fun spring. I don't know if that's good or bad, but
I think people are
fun.
so
gonna be fun.
so ready.
They're
to
ready.
get back out, and they're over it. Like even the people that were the most cautious, they'll be like, it was weird the first time going out, and then it will just be like, it's fine. Like
well,
it's-
so this might be just the blowing the doors open.
This is the
kicking the door,
ripping the Band-Aid off
ripping the
moment.
Band-Aid off,
Like-
and then it's going to be like, well, okay, and then I guess we'll see.
and then
what
yeah, we'll either have to all put the mask back on 3 days later, or
exactly. Probably more like 3 weeks later, but yeah.
But no, I think-
interesting.
I think it's going to be a crazy.
Now Austin is still mask optional mandate. What's Austin's sitch?
Man, I really don't know. I have not gone out still.
Okay.
I look at the numbers, I look at the science. There is a really, really significant downturn in COVID.
Yeah.
And, this Omicron has spread so quickly and given a bunch of people natural immunity that it seems like we are on a real turning point if Omicron stays as virulent as it is, as transmissible as it is, and as and I say this softly, non-lethal as it is. It's a little less lethal than Delta, but let's still keep in mind that last week, in the last 7 days, almost 8,500 people in the U.S. died of it. All right? And that's because Delta has been displaced for a couple of weeks already. These people are dying of Omicron. It's still killing people excessively. And I still want to take it easy because I have some pre-existing conditions. My girlfriend who lives with me also does, and she's an elementary school teacher in a, there's no way to put another spin on it, but she's not teaching in Austin. She's teaching in a town right by Austin that has a school district that is anti-vax and anti-mask, and they had
Anti-vax, Jesus.
Yeah, they had their whole school gutted by COVID essentially, and it's still really scary to me.
Okay.
I don't want to be the guy who kills this person's grandfather, or this kid. I don't want to put this kid in a hospital. I don't know. Like
No,
I'm
I
still
mean that's something you
about
gotta
it.
that's something you gotta wrestle with. I'll say something producers and sellers and educators of alcoholic beverage. I guarantee you, we've all thought of this in a different light.
Yes.
I certainly have, especially it runs in my family and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's just something that I think we all have to figure out as like on a personal basis. But I personally think just societally, I'm I I'm. It's interesting that you think it's going to be even crazier and sloppier, Mike.
Yeah, I'm not saying I condone this
No,
either.
no, 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 I'm not
and,
saying you
and
do.
I'm not going to partake. Like I don't
Yeah.
And
go
I
out for
actually-
St. Patrick's Day anyway. But
I go to
And
the
I
Irish
actually
Heritage
agree with
Center
Mike.
every year.
I think it's going to be crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
Even the non-Irish places, I think, are going to be busy.
Yeah.
I've seen a ramp up at Goose Clybourne, my regular, and we were at Hopleaf 3 weeks ago, sitting with Michael Roper, and both said the same thing, that in the previous Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays, just for 2 weeks, the populations at the bars were expanding so dramatically that their bar staff were kind of slammed. So now you add on to that, again, that was a few weeks ago. We no longer need to show ID. We no longer need to have masks on. It's just cause for celebration. And that will go on practically every place. Of import, I think, to bear in mind, is that there are servers that are trapped in that environment who are being exposed to large groups of people, and a certain percentage will be carrying some form of COVID. And chances are those servers are young people who are relatively healthy, potentially vaxxed or carry some immunity, but they can still contract it. And one of the big things that's occurring is the loss of smell and taste. In our industry, that's a really bad thing.
Yeah.
For us who sell beer, taste beer, and recommend it to other people, and just enjoy living, enjoy drinking it, if you're incapable of smelling and tasting appropriately, not just for the next few weeks or months, but potentially for years, that's a concern.
One of the guys who works here got COVID. Oh boy, a long time ago, months and months ago, and he says he still doesn't trust his nose, which is crazy. And he was, studying to take the Cicerone exam and all that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
and kind of put it on pause because he was like, it just kind of went haywire. I hadn't thought about that side of thing.
We have 4 people in the class that can't smell and taste right now, and they haven't been able to for months.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And I mean, the people who lost their smell and taste, in some cases as much as a year or more ago, are capable of smelling and tasting again. But there is there are a lot of reports of having your aromas reassigned from one thing to smelling like another. And so doctors are still trying to figure out if what this does is that the disease damages the apparatus in your sinuses that actually perceives aromas, or if something's happening within the brain that says, what I'm smelling now, I smell it as something different. This sort of area of recall in your brain that identifies the smell that you're perceiving has actually been changed. We don't know that yet.
I just thought all the beer I've had lately smells like shit. You're telling me that? Oh my god! And my dog smells like beautiful hoppy beer.
That could be the issue.
Oh boy, I hadn't thought of
smell
that.
like hoppy beer to Chris.
Anyway, have a great St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, have a great one.
Yeah.
Okay, finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about the passing of Armand from Dree Fontainen. I was shocked by it. I guess it was announced this past weekend. I mean, out of the blue, I kind of was taken aback by it. We've had a few times where we've kind of stopped and talked about people who've passed away on this show, not not too often though. But I personally think that it's hard to overstate the influence that he's had. I said in the outline on American beer, and I specifically wanted to, highlight that, but that does not mean that he did not have kind of a global influence. But I know for the people sitting at this table, they've obviously had his beers and his blends and stuff like that. But I mean, I would think he probably directly influenced the beers that you make, and probably you too, Dave. I mean, if it's not like literally your lambic inspired, but like the whole sour beer movement, I think, got legs in the U.S. because of lambic, right? That was like the first one to really take off, and it was like him and Cantillon and Frank Bone, maybe to a smaller degree in terms of it like taking off. That did it. So yeah, I mean, it'd be without Belgian lambic, it'd be interesting to see what the U.S. Wild and sour beer market would be like.
Probably wouldn't exist.
I mean, it very well might not, and it would be very different. And without Armand, what would the Belgian lambic scene be like right now? Who knows? I mean, it's hard to say.
And I really don't know a more perspective shifting style than a goose to have when you know, like I started drinking craft beer in the mid 90s or microbrew, I guess, and imports back then. And I had my first goose in, I think it was around 2005, 2006. I'm not sure if that's early or late when it comes to the U.S. because I was in Austin and we really didn't have much of a beer scene here, but I got my hands on a Cuvée Rene, and I had never heard anybody else talk about that beer. I just heard it was a sour beer and that I should try it. And it completely blew my mind. And I know for a lot of people who were, like me, 10 years into my beer drinking journey, to have a beer like that and it make you completely rethink what beer could be in a stronger way than, what a Belgian beer did for my perception of like Bud Light or whatever when I first started drinking. That's some really strong stuff. And, these guys, it took a long time for me to even hear of their names. You know what I mean? As an American drinker. I don't know. Like, it's an amazing mark that people like Armand have left in our minds. And he was very important. He was extremely important.
Yeah.
I remember that he had stepped away from the brewery a few years ago due to health. And so I knew that there was something kind of cooking there. Something was happening there. But it was still shocking to me to hear that he passed.
Yeah, absolutely. So
there's plenty to be said for what he did for Goose specifically in Lambic, but there's also just the presence of someone who is very attentive to both the past and future of a legacy, and not just his, but of a thing. Like it happened to be Lambic, but the story they've been telling out of that brewery for the last couple of years was about succession planning and how do we and kind of innovating and succeeding what they were doing, right? And someone who is very rooted in the tradition and very moved by it and influenced by it, but also thinking of how does this move into the future? And so taking that even just out of the context of Lambic, that's a really important person to have in a subculture like what we have in beer. I'm glad it was in Lambic because they're things I love very much, and they're very beautiful beers. But just that type of person existing in the space that you also create in is very inspiring, regardless of what they're choosing to actually express it.
Yeah, well put. So it'll be if you guys have some Lambic, ideally some Dree, but if not, I'm sure Armand would understand. Pop some of that and enjoy it. I know we're going to be, I think, digging in the crates and bringing some stuff up this weekend. So that'll be a fun way to remember. I will say that's one good thing about when people in this industry pass away. It's fun to be able to celebrate them that way.
I mean, it's something that makes beer super cool, right?
That someone made it, someone's making it.
Yeah, there are things made and there are legacy left behind that in physical form.
Yeah. Well, not to end on a downer, but I think, it was important to say, and I do think you should, celebrate him as well. Everyone, of course, people are sad when someone passes, but it's also a good time to reflect and celebrate the good things as well. So that's what I'm going to plan on doing, and hopefully you guys out there are doing the same.
And if you guys want to read a fun story about him, you should probably look into how he saved his brewery after he lost everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
There's
right.
a crazy story.
Yeah, it was crazy. And, what he did to bounce back from that. I don't want to give anything away from any part of it because it's all super exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fairly recent history.
Right.
All that
Yeah.
stuff too.
Right.
Yeah.
Last 12 years, maybe? 10
Yeah.
years, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely. Cool. Well, I think that's about it. We got to one topic on the outline. So no, two. I threw
A few.
St. Patrick's in there. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
3.
Good.
Armand
good.
was on the outline.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, we stuck to it.
We
That's
really
great.
crushed the
Yeah, we did
outline.
fine.
Good
We
job,
Crushed the
guys.
outline.
Yeah.
I want to thank my guests. I'm going to give them all a chance. If there's anything that they want to say, feel free to plug away if you want, or just say anything in closing. But I wanted to thank my guests, John, Dave, and Keith, and as always, the co-host extraordinaire, Mr. Strong Mike Shalau. Strange Mike.
Strange Mike.
Yeah, Strange Mike. But anything that anyone would like to add to the show before we go off the air? Who knows when you'll be on again?
From the yawn of time.
Yes. Okay. Well, then I think I know what you guys mean by that. So,
Bye.
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 Oh, wait, I forgot to turn it on. I forgot to fade it up, man.
Again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted.